Hello there guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review. And today we're going to be discussing Mike and Natalie. And last week and this week we've had a bit of Mike and Natalie overload, although I guess it could be said that just seeing a photo of Mike and Natalie is rather too much. As usual, before we begin, please don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. It's fun over here. Make Ebird a very happy Ebird and join the gang. And also please don't forget to press like if you enjoy the video. Right, so without further ado, I give you Mike and Natalie. So we first see Natalie and Mike, and they're tidying the house in anticipation for Mike's mum visiting. And as per usual, Natalie's in a perma-sulk, and she tells us, I would like her to come over at another time. She's bound to feel the bad vibes and feel the tension in the air. Really, Natalie? What time would you suggest? Because the house is never filled with fun and laughter, now is it? And she asks Mike, does your mum know how our visit ended? When you left Ukraine? And in other words, she just wants to know, does she realise that I launched the bloody ring across the room at you? And Mike confirmed, oh yes, she knows. And Natalie looked worried. She said, what's she like? And Mike said, well, she's quite hard-headed. And Natalie said, oh, no way. I won't get on if she's hard-headed. No way. Absolutely not. I don't like hard-headed people. What does hard-headed mean? And Mike said, it just means she's not sentimental. Oh, not sentimental. I won't like if she's not sentimental. Natalie, we can see what you're doing. You're just clinging on to any old word or any old phrase to say, I won't like her if this, I won't like her if that. She's coming anyway, but you're laying down the foundations so that if she doesn't like you, you can quickly pretend you don't like her. Or you can pretend she doesn't like me because she's not sentimental. She doesn't like me because she's hard-headed. Natalie, it's almost as if you're translucent. We see right through you. And then Natalie tells production that she needs to make a good impression. Leave before she comes then, Natalie. That's your only hope. And next time we see this couple, Trish, Mike's mum, has just arrived from Oklahoma. She gives Natalie a big hug, and Natalie says, I like your style. Oh, interesting. Where have we heard that before? Oh, now I remember. It was Homeless Uncle Beau. You took one look at his teeth, which are like a burnt-out fuse box, and you declared, he's the most stylish man I've ever seen. And now suddenly, there's a rival for the cover of Vogue, and it's Trish, Mike's mum. Natalie, don't you have any other compliments? Guys, she really is basic. Considering she's got a really high IQ of 110, she's very, very basic. And so all three of them sit down in the living room and begin what I can only describe as an excruciatingly cringe-filled chat. Mike and his mum were joking away about different things, and Natalie was just sitting there like a statue, not smiling, not interacting really. And she sat there looking 1, serious, 2, bored, or 3, puzzled. And then she very seriously tells Trish, I never understand Mike's sense of humour. I don't understand when he's joking or not. And Trish said, he gets his sense of humour from me. You'll pick it up in time. And Natalie just nodded like a small child. And guys, this whole scene was so weird, considering she knew I have to make a good impression. She didn't try it at all. She just made everybody feel super awkward. Natalie has quite the talent for making every single atmosphere a bad and cringy one. And later on, Natalie speaks to producers and she says, Mike's mum takes Mike's side. And my mum takes Mike's side. It's strange. You've forgotten, Ebird takes Mike's side. All my subscribers take Mike's side. The world as we know it, Natalie, take Mike's side. If aliens come down next week from outer space, guess what? Yes, that's right. They will take Mike's side. It's really not that strange, Natalie. You're always, always in the wrong. And Trish suddenly said out of the blue, when am I gonna get grandbabies, doggone it? But Natalie's still just sitting there, wearing her rotten, self-absorbed energy. Her eyes look as if she's double dropped to Mazapan. And she says, I have no ring, and he will not give me my ring back. And Trish said, well, y'all gotta figure it out. But later on she said to producers, their differences are so big, I don't know how they're gonna figure it out. I can tell you, Trish, they're not. And next time we see them, they're all going out for a meal. I guess they had to, because they've only got 2 paper plates and 2 knives and 2 forks. And guys, I couldn't help but notice last week when Natalie was calling Mike low class that they were eating off paper plates at the time. I didn't mention it at the time because I kind of wanted to go in on Natalie, but she has got a point some of the time. So anyway, off they went to a restaurant. And yet again, there's this silent, strange atmosphere. And Natalie said, to me, silence is okay. And to people in my country, Ukraine, silence is fine. And I'm not sure if that's true or not, but one thing's for sure, you realised it was weird in this situation, otherwise you wouldn't have bothered to reference it. But Natalie's got a one-track mind, and she's on with the same old crap. She tells producers, that she wants Trish to tell Mike to give Natalie back her ring. And Natalie's absolutely obsessing about this ring, as if that's suddenly going to be the nadir, the magic thing that changes the whole relationship. Natalie, ring or no ring, you still hold Mike in utter contempt. That is why your relationship is doomed. And Trish says to Natalie, how's your relationship going? And Natalie tells her about not unpacking her suitcases. And then she starts bollocking on about the fact she hasn't got her ring, and also that there's no wedding date, and her mum wants to come to the wedding and she can't just get a visa, so she doesn't know what to do. The E-Birds have got an idea. Perhaps, Natalie, you should stop being a bitch. Then Mike would probably give you the ring and give you a date. And she said, I don't understand why he's going to give me the ring back. And Trish said, do you think it upset Mike when you gave him the ring back in the first place? And by gave, I assume she meant rocket launched it across the room, because as far as I'm concerned, that's what she did. She dashed it on the floor. And then Trish continued, it's not good to test somebody by throwing the ring and hoping they just give it back to you. And Natalie nodded and said, I know I was very wrong for that. And Mike tells us it's the first time since Natalie's given me the ring back that she's actually admitted she's in the wrong, and she's admitted it was a mistake. Mike, that is not what you are supposed to be focusing on. What you are supposed to be focusing on is the fact that she's never apologised to you. So never mind that she's just not admitted it was a mistake. She's not sorry for what she did. She's only sorry that it turned out that you didn't just straight away give her the ring back, and now she's come all the way to America, she still doesn't have a ring. That is the only reason that she's sorry. She's sorry that she miscalculated how it would turn out. But Natalie's back on with the wedding date, and she said, I need to have the date so I can apply for my mama's visa. And guys, between you and me, I think it's going to be but a matter of time before Natalie applies for her mama's permanent visa. I've got a feeling that she wants to move her mum to America. And so then Trisha takes what I consider to be a very, very wrong turn. She said to Mike, let's get a provisional date and we can start applying for the visa, and if everything goes okay, then we can leave as is. And so Mike said, yeah, okay, I guess we can agree a date. And Natalie, oh my God, she started breathing heavy and emoting, and she acted as if everything was all back on. I don't think she understood the provisional nature of this agreement. And guys, she sat there looking like a Cheshire cat. I've got to say there's one thing that Natalie does well, and that's her smug look. And Natalie tells producers later, Trish is like a magic button to Mike's heart. And then she looked at Trish and she grabbed her hand and kissed it and said, you are a very, very smart woman. And guys, I can't with Natalie's so-called compliments. And I've got to say, Trish, you're a very, very unwise woman. Because later to producers she said, there are so many differences, I don't think this can work out. Trish, you're pushing it along, you're helping the process. And next time we see this couple, they're back at home. And Mike and Natalie are discussing Trish. And Mike says, I think she likes you. No, she doesn't, Mike. And Mike tells us he thinks he's in quite a good place at the moment with Natalie. Okay, so I just want to break this down. Mike, Natalie holds you in utter contempt. Just a couple of weeks ago, she told you you were low class. She told you you had a low IQ. She told you she thinks that your ex-wife has a low IQ as well. And she reminded you that you have no manners. You're in lots of things, Mike, but a good place is not one of them. But of course, because Mike thinks he's in a great place, he decides to talk wedding dates. And he said, what about April the 2nd? And she said, nope, I don't like the number 2. In fact, I like the number 3. For God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. So we're going to get married on April the 3rd. The E-Bird thinks it should be April the 4th. Natalie, you've forgotten the devil. What up, Lucifer? And they discuss if they're going to get married in a church or not. And Natalie says it doesn't matter to her. Once again proving she's the perfect Christian. And Trish sits down at the table and they tell Trish they've got a wedding date. And Trish looks mildly unhappy. Trish, don't look unhappy with anyone else because you're the one that pushed this along. And then Natalie's mum just happens to ring. And I honestly think that Natalie texted her, but whatever. And she said, Mum. And she told her excitedly that we're getting married. We've got a date. It's all happening. And once again, she forgets the word provisional. And her mum said, congratulations. It's amazing. It's wonderful. And honestly, guys, it looks as if Natalie's going to marry Mike by stealth. Mike and his mum should both say, this is not definite, this is provisional, depending on how we get on. But I know exactly what's going to happen now. They're going to apply for the visa, they're going to spend a certain amount of money on visas and tickets, and then Natalie's going to say, what, you're going to cancel at this late stage? Oh my God, no way. Mike, it's all so obvious. And guys, please let me know in comments down below, am I putting 20 on 10? Was this supposed to be the go-ahead, or was this just provisional? And Natalie bursts into tears. And next time we see these guys, Trish is leaving, and before she goes, she takes Mike aside for a quick word. Trish, please no, you've done enough damage. And she says to Mike, do you think Natalie's really into this? Or do you think she has a hidden agenda? Do you think she wants to get over here and then do her own thing? And Mike said, I don't think so, but I don't know. I can't read her mind. Mike, you don't need to read her mind. Just read her body language. She recoils from you and says, ugh, get away from me, you're drunk. Look and listen to what she has to say. She calls you an idiot. You've got a very low IQ. Your ex has a low IQ. Your house is disgusting and dirty. Everything about you is awful. She thinks you're fat and that you need to lose weight. And she thinks you're an alcoholic who drinks far too much. You don't need to read her mind. She's telling you. She's screaming what she thinks about you in your ear daily. And then Trish said some more boring stuff and she left. Guys, Trish has really let me down. When she walked in, she had this punchy southern accent. And I always put that down to kind of a no-nonsense person. I'm not gonna take no shit. That's what I think about this accent. But Trish, you've just let me down. Maybe she's not originally from the South. I don't know. But she wasn't very forthright. And in some ways, she kind of let Natalie dictate what was going to happen. I'm honestly at a loss for words. And so next time we see these guys, they're sitting down having breakfast. And Natalie's boring the pants off Mike, asking about a wedding budget. And she said she needs to know how much she's got for food and how much she's got for her dress. And guys, I've got to say, this irritates me so much because Natalie talks down to Mike. She looks down on him as if he's the scum from the bottom of her shoe. And in the next breath, she's asking him for money as if she has none. Natalie, do you not have anything to contribute to this wedding? And before you all start calling me a pick-me, I'm only taking my cues from Natalie. Natalie says, I have an amazing education. And I'm so super intelligent. Well, Natalie, then you should have a couple of rubles to put towards this wedding. But it doesn't seem as if she does. And Mike was strangely quiet. And Natalie tells us, since his mum's gone, Mike doesn't want to talk about this wedding whatsoever. And then they decide to go out hiking. And they're driving along in the car. And Natalie's saying that she loves skiing, hiking, everything that's outdoors. That's her, she loves the outdoors. And then Mike asks, why have you got so much makeup on? And then I was once again reminded about Mike. Mike, you know very well why women wear makeup. Remember, the same reason that the flowers were purple, to attract things, to attract the opposite sex, and to stand out. That's why women wear makeup. So Natalie then decides to blank him, and he says he can never figure Natalie out. He doesn't know why she suddenly switches from on to off. And you know, I'm no Natalie fan, but I can tell you, Mike, why this is. Because you are passive aggressive. You're making a needless, barbed comment at Natalie, and then you're feigning ignorance. I don't know why she's upset, because you've just semi-insulted her. Now, everybody's different. Some people are really touchy about their looks and they get really insulted. And with some people it's weight, or, you know, everyone's got their thing that they don't like somebody to talk about. And you very well know, Mike, that with Natalie, it's her looks. She does everything she can to keep thin. She's very active. She says she eats raw vegetables so that her skin will be flawless and smooth, which in fact it is. So you know exactly what you're doing. So anyway, as they walk through the park, Natalie seems in somewhat of a better mood, and they're walking past loads of different trees, and all of a sudden she just sprints towards a tree and hugs it. Later on, production asked, why did you do that? And she says, I don't know why I did it, but the tree gives me strength and energy, and it makes me happy. And I've thought a lot about this. Why does she do this? And I think it's the same reason that she wanted to go to the waterfall, a place of great natural beauty, so badly. And I don't think it's because she's a nature freak. Now work with me on this one. When she got to Mike's and it was through the woods and it was all icy and looked like a wonderland, and you've got a house in the middle of all these fields and hills, she didn't like it one bit. I am scared. It's like a horror house. And if you were really into natural beauty, you would think, oh my God, right outside my door, there are amazing views. There are trees everywhere. I'm in the middle of the countryside. I love it. But she didn't. She's a city girl and she said, I like the city. So I think all of this is performative. I think she wants to portray to Mike that she's healthy and that she's at one with nature as opposed to him. I think it might be a silent dig at Mike, along the lines of, why do you eat meat? Why do you drink alcohol? Don't have butter, it's bad for you. All of these things. She's basically putting herself forward as someone who loves nature and loves things that are good for you and loves things that are organic and natural. But guys, I've got to say, I'm not 100% sure on this theory, so let me know what you think down in comments below. I'd love to hear you weigh in on this one. But I just think it's an angle. It was so weird the way she did it. Is the Ebird paranoid? Yeah. Does the Ebird overanalyze? Again, yes. Is the Ebird reaching? Yes. But guys, sometimes, just sometimes, I actually grab onto what I was reaching for in the first place. It's possible. And Natalie asked Mike to spin her round like a little child. And she tells Mike she likes hiking, it's healthy and normal. What's the point of the word and normal? Do you see what I'm saying? What I was trying to say earlier about her painting the idea that this is normal life and what you do is abnormal, that's part of this. It's healthy and normal. Very strange. And Mike went, I think you're a little bit crazy. And he tells producers, I'm struggling to figure her out. And the truth be told, I think Mike's going to keep struggling. He'll never understand Natalie. I've been watching her for 2 seasons and yeah, she's kind of a weird bag of tricks. But I think what Mike is struggling to do is justify why he will put up with any amount of horse shit just to go out with a fit girl. He tries to downplay all the terrible things that she's said and done to him just so he can justify his desire for going out with somebody fit. And it would seem to me that that desire supersedes him being happy. Honestly, I'm at a loss for words. And the final time we see these guys, we discover that Natalie's put all her clothes into a smelly wardrobe. Oh Natalie, why didn't you clean it before you put them in? So bizarre. I believe it smells a little bit, but I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as you've made out. And she tells Mike she wants to go into town to find some linen spray. And so they walk into a kind of shabby chic chintzy shop. And we have the obligatory nosy shop assistant, and Natalie tells her that she's got just 90 days to be married. And she starts picking up bits and bobs from the shop and saying, Mike, we can get this for our wedding. And I look at what's in her hand and I think, Natalie, that's a linen napkin. At home, Mike is still eating off paper plates. What do you think your chances are? But Mike's seen what he wants and he picks up 2 whiskey decanters. And I honestly think, again, he was doing it to wind Natalie up. Because who, besides a Scotsman, wants 2 whiskey decanters? Why didn't you have 1 whiskey and 1 brandy? But Natalie's not really biting. She's still talking to the shop assistant about the wedding. And she says we haven't got anything sorted out yet. And the shop assistant says, there's not much time. And obviously this whole conversation was designed to put the pressure on Mike. But Mike tells Natalie he just wants a small wedding. And he doesn't want to spend a lot. Of course you don't, Mike. He hasn't got a lot. And we finish up this week with Natalie telling production that she's very upset. And she said, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I feel like I'm just falling. So what do we make from this? I think overall, Mike and Trish dropped the baton this week because when they agreed on an actual date, even though they said it's provisional, Natalie completely ignored that and she acted as if the whole wedding's going ahead. Let's look at napkins. What about my dress? And she's sweeping all the other problems under the carpet. It seems to me that Mike's mum doesn't particularly like Natalie, but she's not really telling Mike her true feelings. But I think she's of the same opinion that I'm of, and that's the fact that Natalie's going to get married to Mike, do her obligatory 3 years, and then she's going to scoot off and live her life sans Mike. Natalie doesn't have a care for Mike. Even when she was looking at Mike and Mike's mum's relationship, she only looked at how it pertained to her. She didn't say, oh, Mike really loves his mum, they've got a great mother-son relationship. She just said, if I can work on Trish, I can get Mike to do what I want him to do. So she even looks at other people's relationships from a viewpoint of how can I better manipulate. And then also Mike's passive aggressiveness is somewhat of a problem, and I do think it pushes Natalie's buttons. And I saw something last week that I didn't make too much comment on, but when she was saying, Mike, you're low class, and she was being really horrible to him, Mike and Natalie at that point were eating off paper plates, and Mike actually picked food up with his fingers, lifted his head up and dangled the food into his mouth. And I think he did that to wind Natalie up. And it's much the same as when Mike said, why have you put loads of makeup on? She wasn't made up any more or less than she usually is. Natalie's stuck in all week. Of course, if she goes out at the weekend to do something, she's likely to want to put a bit of makeup on. So I think Mike would be better advised to actually just tell Natalie what he really thinks and talk about the problems properly before they get married, rather than doing these little passive aggressive moves, which one, she doesn't really pick up on, and 2 don't help you out because they don't get to the root of any of the problems. But as you know, I overall think these guys are not a match, and I've said the reasons again and again in past videos, but Natalie's a Christian, Mike believes in aliens, Natalie's a pescatarian, and Mike thinks I haven't fought my way to the top of the food chain just to eat bloody vegetables. Natalie's a teetotaler, Mike likes a drink or two, and so on and so forth. For all those reasons, they are not a match, and guys, miss me with the opposites attract. It's not true. But by far, the worst thing and the death knell for any relationship is contempt, and Natalie is completely and utterly contemptuous of Mike. She thinks he's too fat, he needs to lose weight. She thinks he's got a low IQ. She thinks he leads a low-class life. And most of all, she thinks she can speak to him like something she's just scraped off the bottom of her shoe, and she knows there will be no consequence. No matter how badly I speak to you, you will still love me. You will still want to continue a relationship with me. The only thing Mike's got going for him at the moment is the fact that he hasn't given her this ring. Other than that, Mike, you've totally bent over for Natalie. It's actually really sad to see. So that's about everything for this couple. Guys, let me know what you think. My question for this week is, did Natalie understand that this was a provisional date and we have to see if everything else goes okay for the wedding? Or did she just think that the wedding was on? I think she understood the provisional part, but she just pretended not to, so she could just bulldoze this wedding through. And you know what? I think she's going to be victorious. I really do. And also, what did you think of Trish? Did you think, like I did, that Trish could have said and done so much more? If Mike goes ahead with this relationship, I think he's going to come back rather battered and broken. I think Natalie will cheer him up and spit him out. So guys, let me know what you think, and I'll be back very soon with another video. Very quickly, please like and subscribe and all of that good stuff. Make Ebird a very happy Ebird, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I bid you good day.